All right, been a while, guys. Since I posted a playthrough. I'm gonna do Albion here, Land of Fairy. Do this playthrough. I haven't posted a while because I spent a month or so with Europa Universalis. I actually did a couple of videos on it. I never posted them because I wasn't sure how far I'd get through Europa Universalis. I didn't get through far, or through it very much. Mainly because, I mean, the paperwork and the record keeping and bookkeeping just was so overwhelming for me and just not fun to do that I shelved it just after the halfway through the first turn. It was, quite a bear, unfortunately. So I want to do something, come back to a playthrough and do something, a little simpler, a little smaller, something I could play through relatively quickly. All right, so Albion Land of Fairy. This is an Ares SPI game from, I want to say like 1980 or so. I'm not sure if I have it here. Does it even say what year it is? I have the magazine kicking around over here. I mean, I use the term kicking around right now because I think I get that from Calendar. I watch too many of his videos. But I do appreciate that kicking around thing. All right, well, it doesn't have the year on it. But anyway, I played this a few times before. A game I really enjoy because it's one of the few fantasy actual war games and not just kind of a multiplayer game with a fantasy theme. In fact, it's probably one of a few I've played. My favorite in the fantasy genre is Dragon Pass as far as war games go. And that's definitely my favorite. But this is a pretty close second. I also have War of the Ring, and I'm talking about the new one, not the SPI one. And I actually like that. That's a lighter war game, but still a very enjoyable one as well. I might do a playthrough of that at some point. So what is this? Well, this game is historical, which I really like. Because it's given as, hey, this is a historical simulation of really what happened on the British Isles, Albion, kind of before the humans took over the isle, or the islands, that it was, in fact, ruled by the fairies, the elves, and there were trolls, and there were gnomes, and there were these people on here, and there was magic, and then these wars happened. This is the third war, according to the history provided, the third Formian War, that eventually kind of broke these gnomes and elves and trolls and allowed humans to basically take over and turn the British Isles, into, what we see today. It's kind of a neat conceit. And I like that idea of how it's presented. So this is a war game, and it's basically a surprise attack here. And what do we have? Well, we have the British Isles. We have this northern area here, and this is a confederation of trolls and some humans who are also allied with some humans down here. And the humans are called Mundanes, which I love that they call them the Mundanes. The trolls are the Fomorians. And then opposing them are the elves, who rule kind of the central area here of the isle, of the British island. I guess I should say England, the English Isles, whatever you want to say. And also Wales. So these are the elves. Here, these are the gnomes here, which are the elves' allies. And then over here in Ireland, we have kind of a separate theater. We have trolls over here. And again, two kingdoms of elves that are allied. The elves are all allied together along with the gnomes. And basically what the game says is the king of Albion, Oberon, the short, he takes an expedition and leaves the islands. He's going over to find... or on an expedition to go to Jotunheim, to find for whatever his reasons are. I think it may say, it may not. I don't remember for sure. So he leaves with his court magicians, some of the heroes, on a fleet of ships and takes off. Well, the trolls find out about this up here, and they say, well, this seems like a good time to go ahead and try and destroy the elves for good. And they're going to go and get their human, mundane allies to join up with them, launch a surprise attack, and crush the elves for good. So that's what the game's setup is. How do you win the game? Well, there's two players. There's the elf player, the fairy player, and then there's the troll and human player. Troll and what they're both trying to do is get victory points. You get victory points for killing the enemy, but also destroying these fortresses. Most of them are occupied, and you get points for doing that, and points for killing the heroes and enchanters on each side. And that's basically it. And it's 10 turns. Whoever gets the most point wins. However, there's a kicker. And the big kicker in this game is that if the points combined, the kind of death toll, the destruction, ever reaches a combined 400 points between both players lose, and the game ends. Okay. This is kind of an interesting concept, and I want to say this is one of the first games to do it, maybe the first game to ever have that kind of concept, but it also provides some problems that we'll see in the game. So anyway, as you're playing as either side, you have to keep that in mind, that there is this, you want to destroy the opponent, but you don't want to crush them so much that the game will end and you'll both lose. All right, so let's take a look over here at Ireland, and let's take a look at some of the pieces. Okay, so this is Ulster, or at least Leinster, I'm sorry, Leinster. These are elves, and there's different pieces, and we have troops. In the bottom number is the strength point of the troops, in this case 6, and then we have the movement point value of those troops. When you look at these other pieces, these are individuals, and they have a number of values. They have a combat strength, and a magic strength, and a command rating. In addition, they have all this kind of stuff up here, and that determines whether they're a hero. In this case, that dark black pentagram is a hero. The non-dark pentagram is an enchanter, and they can cast spells. In addition, they have like a hat on them, and those hats can be a captain, a marshal, or a king, and that determines who they can lead in combat. There's also this command rating over here. That's very important as well. And this game's a kind of a character-driven game in the terms that your leaders are very important as far as the combat, maybe more important than your actual troops you have. Okay. So those are kind of the pieces. You have individuals, and then you have your troop strength points. And strength points and troops are just a number. So this is 6 strength points worth of elves. A strength point is roughly 100 troops. So that's 600 points, 600 elves hanging out here. In addition, most of the leaders, let me see if I can go in here, most of them have this kind of up and down on here, and that means they have an escort of 100 troops or a strength pointed troops. You can flip him over. You can either detach your escort, in which case he has a higher movement rate, but has no more troops escorting him. So a lot of the leaders have an escort with them. Okay. In addition to that, we have items that are located in certain hexes that you can go and look for. These are magic items that give you bonuses, and they're kind of spread out over the board. There's also a lot of the troops are not going to start the game involved in this. And then we have a table over here to try and activate the various units that don't start activated. The main one here is Oberon's Expedition, and he cannot start coming in until turn 4. And the fairy player is going to want to try and call him. There's a spell he can cast. And there are spells in the enchantments in this game, spells you can cast. If you have an enchanter, they're going to have to be in one of these hexes here that show that they're a place of power. Now, there's a lot of stuff you have to know in this game. There is, let me look at the rules over here. it's 16 pages of rules, and it really probably could have used another few rules. But the last 1, 2, 3, 4 pages are all about the individual leaders, the places of power, the magic items. They all have individual special rules for them. Now, many of the leaders are not a big deal because most of them are not that important, although some do. For example, focus in down here, Sean, who's an enchanter here and also a captain for the mundanes down here in the Weald. He can't leave the Weald because he doesn't agree with the war against the elves. So, but you have to look that up and know that. And if you don't know that, you may move him out and have him engage in combat. So again, there's this game that you really have to study these last 4 pages and know what all your different leaders and items do. All right. So anyway, the game starts off here with a special opening phase, and that is that the mundanes and trolls are going to get a special movement phase, and they're going to be able to move all their units at 3 times their movement strength wherever they want, but they can't enter the enemy territory, and they can gather their strength, and then they'll start turn 1, which is up here, and then they'll be able to begin their invasion if they want. They don't have to, but it generally is it's an advantage you want to use because the elves are only going to get stronger as the game goes on. So that's basically it, and I will come back after I do that initial pre-game movement point, and I'll set up my stacks. And then I'll go kind of talk then after I set up what I'm thinking as far as how I want to launch this invasion and what I'm thinking as far as doing that. All right.